Okay, one of the mitzvahs of Korban Pesach is that al tochel mimenu bashal mevushal. That means in mayim, na or half roasted, kiyim tzliesh. There's a mitzvah to go ahead and the Korban Pesach should be in tzliesh. This perek or this Mishnah is going to deal exactly how they roasted the Korban Pesach. This Mishnah is going to show us exactly how they roasted the Korban Pesach to make sure that it was totally what? Tzliesh. That it was totally tzliesh. Ketzat Solas Pesach. How would they roast the Pesach? Mevi and Shpud run ayin dal and amid aleph. Mevi and Shpud shel rimon. They would bring a spit of a pomegranate tree. V'toifoy l'teich piv. They would insert it into the mouth at base the kuvasai until that it exited the rectum. V'noisten es krov. They would put the legs v'espenei me'ov in the kishkis. The soichai inside the animal when it was cooked. So as they broiled it, view the animal as a pot. As a matter of fact, I may have something over here. Not that I may have, I know I have. This is what it looked like. This is what the Korban Pesach looked like.
We need a parish chai again, I guess.
Yeah, here you go. It would have notice it would have a thick end over here, thinner end over here. They would stick it in the mouth, go through the backside. The legs are cut off, as you can see, and the legs are inside, and it's being roasted in sliesh. That's the opinion of Rabbi Galili. However, the opinion of Rabbi Akiva is that it has to be, if you're going to roast it inside, it's like cooking, and you're going to view this as the pot, and maybe the juices of the animal will be cooking the. So what would they do? They would go ahead and put the legs outside and the kishkas outside. So everything was outside. This is Rabbi Akiva.
What kishkas are they eating?
The intestines.
Real kishka.
Real kishka, yeah, real kishka. Not milmad, real kishka. Rabbi Akiva, Aimer, Kivin bishul was there. That's a type of bishul. Elatoilin chutzaloi. They would go ahead and suspend, as we saw, the legs and the intestines outside. And now, if you look at Tosfos, Ketzat Solin, v'tofu l'toch piv, Omari, mishum hachi tofun derech piv. This is the reason they put it in the mouth. The vishal noisen hagas shebishpud, they put the thick part of the spit lamata below, as we saw in the picture, k'dei shlo yipel ha'pesach, that it shouldn't fall. V'oz havi beis hashchita lamata, u'kedayiv doma derech sham. So in this scenario, right, guys, if the let's get to the other picture. I for this purpose, the other picture might be a little better. As you notice, the thick part is below and the mouth is below. So now the Pesach doesn't fall down because why? Because it has it's because of the thickness, and in addition, the mouth is open, so any blood that comes out will drip into the fire and be dissipated. Again, we're going to see a sugya today of blood as well. I'll give you hakdama soon, a sugya of blood, this of blood and how we kasher meat and the malicha and sleep. So therefore, machloikas between Rabbi Yossi Galili and Rabbi Akiva, exactly where did you put the legs and the intestines of the Korban Pesach? According to Rabbi Yossi Galili, inside the Korban. According to Rabbi Akiva, outside.
If it's inside, how's it getting roasted? How's it getting roasted if it's inside?
Through the fire, the heat of the fire. That's Rabbi Akiva.
But it's inside the it's insulated.
But it's inside the animal.
From the body.
I'll ask you a question. If you take a chicken and you stuff it, doesn't it get cooked? The stuffing. Anything you stuff doesn't get. Of course, it gets cooked. Now, it says the Gemara, you can't go ahead and roast the Pesach on an iron spit or an iron griddle. It's got, guys, if you're going to put a spit in its mouth, if you're going to put a spit in its mouth of iron, as soon as the iron gets heated up, the iron will be cooking the Korban Pesach, and you need it to be tzliesh. My father, Al Shalom, had a take-home food called mazon, and we used to have these machines, and we'd have like 5 rows of chickens, and each chicken, depending on the size of the chicken, had 4 or 5 chickens on it, and it was so hot. One time, I once burnt myself so badly. I touched it. You can imagine how hot it was. And so it got heated up inside from the heat of the spit. Memela, you needed a special spit of rimon wood, and the Gemara is going to say in a second why dafka that wood, not some other wood, that if it got heated up on the outside, the heat would not transfer down in the middle to cook the Korban Pesach, because there had to be sliesh. Therefore, you couldn't use a spit or an askala to suspend it on a griddle, because the heat of the griddle of the metal will cook the Korban Pesach. Amar Tzadik, Ma'aser Rabbi Gamliel, Shamal Tavi Avdoi, save it cellular or Pesach ala askala, go and cook the Korban Pesach on an askala. Now, anytime the Gemara, the Mishnah brings a Maisa, that's the opposite. The Gemara is going to ask Maisa Listar. Usually you bring a Maisa as a Raya, as a proof. Over here, you just told me you can't cook it on an askala, and now he's cooking it on an askala. So you're going to have to see the reason why. So you know the answer to the Gemara's first question. V'nesi shal matefes, says the Gemara, go ahead and put it on a spit of iron. It says when I did the chomik tzasai, since partially on the outside the iron gets hot, cham kuloi, then the whole iron gets hot. It transfers throughout the spit. And it'll get cooked machmas shpud, and that would not be sli eish. We need it to be sli eish. It has to be broiled by what? By fire, and not broiled by something else. Why do you go ahead and bring dafka rimon? Why don't you bring a palm tree? I did this like shivi, since the palm tree has what? Has grooves. Mafik maya, the grooves will go ahead and the water will come out of it. The moisture will come out of the wood. And then it's going to get heated up and it's going to cook the Korban Pesach. Why don't you bring a fig tree? Says since the fig tree is hollow, the wood is hollow. Mafik maya, the water will come through the chamber that's hollow. Oloin is a type of tree. It's a very hard tree. It didn't have, it didn't have a hollow area for the moisture to come out. All these sycamore tree or a carob tree, which doesn't have that hollow area. So the idea this big katiri, since they have knots, this wood, mafik maya. It's going to go ahead and bring out what? And bring out the liquid. It says the Gemara shall rimay nami is katiri, that you're using a pomegranate spit. It also has katiri, it also has knots. So if it has knots, it's going to go ahead and have moisture come out. It says Mershi katiri, it's not so smooth. The reason the knots are not good, guys, is you're going to go ahead, you're going to take a knife and you're going to go ahead and whittle down the knot. As soon as you whittle, you take away from its natural closure, and that's going to cause the moisture to come out, thus cooking the Korban Pesach. Masha'enkein, the pomegranate tree, the wood is naturally smooth, and so no need to go ahead and whittle it, and therefore the moisture will not come out. It's speaking the Navgo Shel Barshasa, the less bekatiri. It could be a piece, you're going to use a piece of wood that's less than a year old or a year old, and it doesn't have any knots in the mila. It's not going to go ahead and give out moisture. Either way, you're going to go ahead and use the pomegranate tree. Furthermore, the ikabe sakya, the head of the shpud, is the place where you cut it, and mime is going to come out of there. In other words, unless it's a totally enclosed piece of wood, you have to worry about some open area where the heat's going to go ahead and cause moisture to bubble up. So the mafik the biskaya lebar says that you put it on the outside. The mafik lebar, you're going to put that area on the outside. So when it drips, it'll drip into the fire. The cut area you'll put, so the moisture, any moisture that comes, will drip out, it'll go into the fire. Masnisa like Rabbi Yehuda, that mission is not like Rabbi Yehuda. Tanya Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Kishem sheshput shel eitz ein nisraf, just like a shput of eitz does not get burnt, meaning the inner part does not get heated. Kach shput shel matefes ein masiach. so too a shpur of maseches does not get hot. I don't know why this is not. You can't figure that out. You know, if Meir Amsel was here, he would tell you it's machlokas and mitzias. Right? By a piece of metal, if part of it gets hot, the whole thing will get hot, and thus it's going to go ahead and cook the Korban Pesach inside. But wood, fellas, the reason seems universally wood does not transmit the heat throughout the length of it. The reason why you couldn't use the other wood aside from Rimon was a zaytika problem. It wasn't just going to get cooked machmas the heat; it's going to cook machmas the liquid that's getting hot. So you see that the wood itself is not hot. See, the wood itself is not hot. So it's very geschmack. The Korban Pesach, the Korban Pesach is cooked. It has to be tzliesh. It was done in a very, very. It has to be whole. It has to be whole. And we pass like Rabbi Akiva, even though the Rambam passes like Rabbi Akiva, that it has to be that the knees and the innards are on the outside, not on the inside, because the inside it's kind of muvushal. And the svara being that it has to be, nothing else could possibly go ahead and cook it. Nothing else. So we're going to see the Gemara discuss it a little more. It said, "V'noisnes krav." And so Rabbi Yossi Glili said, you put the innards and the legs and the innards on the inside, and Rabbi Kiva said on the outside. Tanya, Rabbi Shmuel Kareu, Rabbi Shmuel would call it tuch tuch. He passed like Rabbi Yossi Glili, and if you put it inside, if you ever listen to a cholent that's, bubbling a little bit, it makes a little sound like tuch tuch. So he's just saying it makes the size tuch tuch. It makes a sound called tuch tuch. And if you look, Rashi has an interesting pshat, guys. Rabbi Shmuel Koreh tuch tuch. The noisin l'soichai. You put it inside. So tuch tuch is a play on the words toich toich. Spherele. Ukeshemasichin, when it boils up, umisvashtan and gets cooked besocho, nishma kol v'sichasa. You can hear the bubbling sound. Tuch tuch kikol hasir, like the sound of a pot. Lishnachrina. This is fascinating. Kosa bisvarim yishanim tachbor. Loshin toich ubar. Toich, take the word tachbar, tachav. It's a nutrition of two words. Loshin toich, inside, ubar, and outside. Kloimar, mimula bevifnim, it's filled up inside, but bar, v'nir b'chutz, but you can see it fat on the outside. In other words, if you, I wonder in the picture if he did this on purpose, right? This Korban Pesach, right, guys? This Korban Pesach looks a little fatter than that one, huh? Right? This is thinner, no? You see? He made it thinner because the innards are out. I don't know, I'm pointing my finger like you're supposed to see this, right? The innards are out, but over here, the innards are in. Therefore, he made it like a little fatter. Okay, so that's the toich toich is toich bar. It's the toich, it's inside, but bar you can see it from the outside. But bar you can see it from the outside. Tanarbanan. Reb Tarfon Karu Gedima Kulis. Reb Tarfon, he paskened like Rabbi Akiva, and he said you put it on the outside. Guys, do you remember the Gemara with Tudis Ish Romi? And he said in Rome they would go ahead and they were speaking at the Minig HaMakom, and he would go ahead. They said the Minig wasn't to use by this for Seder night to eat any roasted meat, boiled meat. But he would go ahead and make a Gedima Kulis. And he told him, right? I put you in Chayrim, right? Yeah, that Gemara. So this is the Gedima Kulis, literally the helmeted Gedi. Tanraban, Ezek Gedima Kulis, Dasalecho Blel Tzachim, Bizman Azeh, Kol Shetzolek Kula Ke'echad. It's all cooked as once. Nichtach Mimeno Aver, right? If you cut off an Aver, and nishlak, or it's mimenu, or it's boiled aver, ein ze gedima kulis, that's not a gedima kulis. Right? The Gemara, hashlei shlemi nichtach mimenu aver, the afagav de kamatfile behedya, even though it's not whole, but you're broiling it with it. Amrit loy nishlach mi boy. Do you have to tell me broiling, which is not? At least in the case where it's cut off, you were broiling the whole thing. It was sliesh the whole thing, and the chasarin was it wasn't whole is no good. Certainly, when you're cooking it in a manner that you're not supposed to cook it by boiling it instead of broiling it, right? You boil. You boiled it when it was still connected. In other words, the chiddush is, even though it's connected, we don't go after the main part of the animal. Now, a little bit of halachas dam. We're going to get in a sugya of dam. There's two types of dam. The dam that you know is in this course is called dam hanefesh. Where there's five types of dam the Gemara describes. When you go ahead and shecht an animal, the first blood that comes out is called dam hatamsis. That's a little bit of blood that drains, and then comes out a gush of blood. That gush of blood is called dam hanefesh, and that dam is an isakaris. Most of that dam comes out b'shas the shchita. As a matter of fact, the Ramban in Sefer Bereshis says that's the reason for shchita, to get rid of the dam, because damu hanefesh, and that's the cheshivas of the animals in the nefesh. So therefore, however, even after all the dam is out, there's still dam that is nivla be'evarim. There is dam that is what? That is absorbed in the limbs. There's two ways to get rid of dam. One, either by salting it, or two, by broiling it. Either by salting it or broiling it. When do we salt meat? When we're going to go ahead and cook the meat. What happens? You put meat in a pot that's not salted, the blood goes out, and then it comes right back in. So what we want to do is go ahead and salt the meat, get rid of the blood, so when you put it in the pot, it doesn't come out. If, however, you're broiling food, then it's not necessary to salt it. Why? Because all the blood that's going to come out is going to get burnt up in the fire. Now, broiling is the preferable method. As a matter of fact, the Gemara in Chulin says the kaved, which is kulei dam, the liver, which is described as all blood, you cannot cook in a pot. You have to broil the liver. And the question is whether you put a little salt on it or not. We know you do put a little salt on it. And that's the Gemara is going to discuss now. You have a piece of meat that you're broiling, and it's stuffed with other meat. Right? It sounds like a good thing. Stuffed meat. You got a meat stuffing. The question is, how could you eat the stuffing? What about it's being broiled? The blood from the basar is getting absorbed in the stuffing, and the stuffing itself is meat. How are you able to eat it? So there is a svara, a very famous svara in Hilchas Dam, which is kibolo kach polto. Just as it absorbs, so it expunges. Just as it absorbs, so it gives out. So this is the akdama to the sugya. I think we have time. I'll show you a very interesting machlokes between Rashi and Tosfos. Says the Gemara. Amar Rabba. Haimolaisa, this piece of meat that's stuffed with other meat. Sharia, you're able to eat the stuffing, right? You're able to eat the stuffing. We don't say that what? Rashi says, Sharia, 4 lines in the bottom. Even if you didn't cook the meat that you stuffed it with, it's muta. And even if it did not have a full salting to get rid of its blood, just the malicha of tzli, the ibn malicha called sarech, the kedera pshita. If you salted it so much that you can put it in a pot, of course, if you stuff it in an animal, there's no difference because all the blood is gone. The chiddush is that even if you just salted it a little bit, which you're going to use for broiling, so meaning there's still blood inside of it, it's still muta. Now Taisus has a problem because for broiling you don't need blood at all. For broiling you don't need salting at all. He has one problem that, and this Taisus says a chiddush about dam shepirsha. Guys, this is an important thing to know in Hilchos Dam. We just had a Gemara that they shechted the 2 seirim on Shabbos, and they were permitted to eat it be'umtza, raw. Question: how are you able to eat raw meat? Isn't it full of blood? How could you eat raw meat? You can't cook it, you can't broil it, you can't salt it. How are you able to eat it? Elamah, as long as the dam is not pirish, it doesn't come out of the meat, right? It's mutter. Dam shaloi pirsha. Dam that doesn't come out of meat is mutter. I'll tell you a very interesting halacha. If you feel you have you use a floss, and you know that taste of blood. We all know that taste. We've had that taste in our mouth, right? If you don't take it out of your mouth, you're able to swallow it. If you take it out of your mouth, you can't put it back in. If you take a piece of bread and you're eating the bread, and all of a sudden you see your blood from your tooth that's bleeding on the bread, you're not permitted to eat it. If it would be in your mouth, you could swallow it. That's the din of dam shaloi pirsha, guys. Dam that did not separate. It was still in your mouth. Once it's pirish, then it's asa. Fascinating. Okay, says the Gemara. Samarava, Haimolisa Shari, it's permitted. It's full of blood. Just as it takes in, it gives out. Name of Messiah, nice and as karav as name of the Saichai. You can put it inside, right? My time, just as it takes in, it goes out. Sami Shani Hasam. Since it's the base of shchita, which is what? Which is hollow on the days, made of dye if the blood flows out. So you have no raya that kibola kach polto. It could be that it has its exit, that it's able to go out, the base of shchita, which was a normal way for blood to exit, since that was the natural way for blood to circulate. But einachanami, in a piece of something stuck inside of something else, maybe the blood wouldn't come out. So you have no raya from my Mishnah. Okay, name of Messiah. I'll bring you a riot kibola kal polto. Halei, the heart. Kairoi, you rip it open. Umoitzi as damo, you take out its blood. Now, even though most of the blood dam and nefesh comes out b'shas hashchita, there are certain organs in the body and certain places where there is dam and nefesh. Did you ever buy a tongue? Did you ever buy a tongue, a full tongue? If you look right in the tongue in the beginning, there's a hole. Why? Because there's an area there, there's a vein there that contains dam, and it's called nikr. They have to menakir the dam. They have to take out that vein. So a heart, we don't eat the heart. The heart is it's Tashbas says it's kosher l'shikcha. The goyim eat, not the goyim. The Sfardim might eat it, but no, you could eat it, but it's kosher l'shikcha. It causes you to forget. It causes you to forget. The Jew, we don't eat that. We don't eat it. Now, what do you do over here? How do you go ahead and prepare lave if you want to eat the heart? So lave kairoi, you rip it. Umoitzi as damai, you squeeze out the blood. Loi karoi, if you do not go ahead and rip it, then kairoi la'achibikshulai. You'll be able to go ahead and rip it open even after bishul. Umutter. Now, l'chayra, why should it be mutter? My time, allow mishum darmina kibola kach poltoi. Now, bishul here must mean sli, guys, right? It must be sli, because bishul in a pot, it go into the pot and come back in. It says over here, you're supposed to take the blood out. If you don't and you cook it, take it out after you cook it. It's not going to help you then, because it would have come out when you cooked it, and it would have re-entered from the outside. So over here, bishul means sli. It means sli. So before I broiled it, I should have cut it open. I failed to cut it open. I can go ahead and cut it open after what? After. So l'chayr, what's the reason? It must be kibolo kach polto. It must be just as what? As it absorbs, so too it gave out. And that's why you can eat it. It says, more shiny lave the shia. Lave is different because it's smooth. So since it's smooth, it doesn't absorb. It says Rashi, the shia, v'lei bala, v'alfilu b'kederi nabi shari. Even for the pot, you would be able to eat it. Even though there's no svar to say kach polto, since the membrane, the muscle of the heart is smooth, it doesn't absorb. Since it doesn't absorb, so you have no raya kibola kach polto. Fred the Gemara, if you don't hold the kibola kach polto, you're telling me kibola kach polto, but Ravin Saba, Ravin the elder, Tafle Ahi Bar Goizla, he went ahead and he Tafle. He went ahead and he took flour, some type of flour. I don't know if he put it inside the bird or on top of the bird. And by Goizli the Rav, he went ahead and he stuffed, let's say this pigeon for Rav. But Amalei Rav said, Imale tafle havle. If it tastes good, give it to me. Ve'echel, and I'll eat it. So l'chayra, how could you not say Rav kibolei kach poltoi. How would Rav be able, guys, to eat the flour? You don't say kibolei kach polto. How could he eat it? So as a raya, you do say kibolei kach polto. Says Gemara, no yam no raya. Hahi besmida demfarer. That's speaking about fine flour, which does not cling together, and therefore the dam leaves quickly. So in other words, it doesn't get absorbed. Fred Gemara Rava ikla lebei reish galusa. Rava showed up in the house of reish galusa. The tafulei bar avza. Again, they put this a goose, a stuffed goose, and l'chayre he ate it. Omar ilav dechazise dezug dezag kezuza chivra. If I did not see that it was clear, kezuza chiyura, like white crystal, like achli minei, I wouldn't have eaten it. So you see that what? That you don't say kibolei kach polto. You see that what? That it must be that it's the reason he's eating it because it's clear. The isal kedaita kibolei kach polto mayer kizig. I feel like hilazig nami. Yes, if we say a rule of thumb kibolei kach polto, you could eat it no matter what it looks like. You could eat it. It can be red. It can be red as a pomegranate. If you will say whatever blood that was in there is out, whatever's still in there didn't leave. And we say that dam shlei perishes muta. So why did Rava need it to be crystal clear white in order to eat it? If he held kibolei kach polto, Ella must be you don't hold kibolei kach polto. Says Gemara Hasam b'chiyura d'shara. Speaking it's white, but it was very hard flour. Since it's hard, we won't say kibolei kach. Usually you do say kibolei kach polto, but not when it's very very hard. Rashi says b'chiyursa kemach nekiya. It was white flour, kain shalana like ours. Sheina soiles. The shore kasha, veina polta. It's hard and it doesn't expunge what it takes in. So really, you do say kibolei kach poltoi, but situationally, I won't. The hilchasa, this smida, if it's that flour that's very soft and it doesn't absorb, bein asmik, bein leasmik, whether it's red or not red, shayur to eat. The chiyursa, if it's this white flour, izig kizuza chiyura, if it's white like a crystal, shayur, iloi asa. The shar kamachim, all of the flour, asmik, if it's red, it's usher, because it didn't go ahead and give off. Loy asmik shari. Haimolai, so getting back to that stuffed bird or stuffed meat, that stuffed with meat. Manda usher, one that says that's usher, afilu pumula sachas, would even hold if the mouth is down and it could be dripping out. Nonetheless, if you don't say kibolei kach polto, it's going to stay inside. Uman de shari, but the one who says kibolei kach polto, who permits it, afilu pumula el. That's even if its mouth is facing upwards, and natural gravity, the blood goes down. So the natural orifice where it would come out is facing in the other direction. Nonetheless, we will say that what kibolei kach polto. Yes, Yehuda.
All these things are talking about that you're cooking it in a pot. You're roasting it over a fire.
You're roasting it.
Okay, so the kibolei kach polto is by roasting, or it's only by cooking?
Only by roasting, because even if you say kibolei in a pot, if you say kibolei kach polto, it's going to go back in. Right, you hear?
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's Cheskel. It's on pick it up. It's Cheskel on. It's an audio. It's a 4222. My son just came in from Kiev. He's there? Let me see.
Hold on a second. What's happening? My middle shear.
Say hello to the boys, Kesk.
Oh, your middle shear. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Hi, Chesky.
For you?
Kesk, you know him? Yankel Zucker.
Oh, well, wow, look at that.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
You know Benji?
Dr. Greenfield.
Do you remember Steve Geller?
I'm by, Chesky. I'm in Inwood.
This is a new guy. This is Doc. Hopefully you won't see him, but usually you'll see him, but he's on the other side. Anyway.
Nice to meet you. All right, so give the phone back to Moshe.
Okay. There you go.
He's a middle shear.
Yeah. Anyway, the other guys won't be able to come in. He lives in Kiev. Okay. He's in the middle of Shia. We'll call you back. Okay, great. Thank you. I haven't seen him in I don't know how many years. A few years, 2 years must be at least 2 years. Okay. Anyway, so that was the dinner of this Melissa Shari Afilu Puma El, because we'll say Kibola Kachpolta Umtza. Umtza is a piece of raw meat. Bei, those are beitzim, but not of the chicken variety. Umizraki, and the tsavar of the neck. Pligi bar Rav Acha Ravina. Now, b'chol haTorah Rav Acha l'chumra Ravina l'kula. B'chol haTorah Rav Acha will be l'chumra and Ravina will be l'kula. The Hilchas Ravina and the Lach will always be like Ravina l'kula. However, levar mehani tlas, 3 places where Rav Acha is mekel and Chanina and Ravina is machmir, and we pass like Rav Acha. Ravina l'chumra. Hilchas Rav Acha l'kula. Hi umsa. There was this raw piece of meat, the asmik, right? That was very, very red. Chotche umalche. So what happened was, you have this piece of meat, it's got a red spot, it got hit, what we call a black and blue mark. So the dam went to the surface. Now the dam went to the surface, so it's considered as it's separate already. It's very interesting. Even though we said dam shalei pirsha is muta, over here seemingly we say that it's considered pirish over here. It's considered separate over here. I don't know why that is. I think I saw a reason. Guys, hear my kasha. Why do you have to go ahead and cut this open? Why do you have to cut it open? If it's loy pirsha, then you should be able to swallow it. Just like you could swallow a raw piece of meat. Why if a piece of meat gets it has a black and blue mark. Black and blue mark is where your blood is coming to the surface. So why over here is it considered that you have to cut it to get it out? There's a sheet called Rabbeinu David, one of the Rishonim on Pesach Pesachim. He says that the dam comes to the surface and it gathers together, and over here it's considered as if it's separated already. It's considered out, and therefore, in order to eat it, you have to cut it. So nachamo, hayumtze the asmik chotche umalche. You go ahead, you cut it and you salt it. I feel the kedera shari. Then you can even cook it in a pot. Shaftei b'shpuda. But if you put it on a spit, shari, then it's permitted. Made of dayev. Achte agumre. If you put it on coals, you're going to barbecue it. Pligi bar Rav Acha Ravina. Chad aser b'chad shari. Manda aser. The one that says it's aser. Matzmis samis. He holds that the searing process seals it off. Uman Shari says Mishav Shoyev, it causes it to go ahead and flow. I would tend to agree with the first one with the minimal experience I've had on a grill. However, the Hilchasa Mishav Shoyev, the halacha is that it goes out. So there's an opinion I saw that it goes out, it goes right back in. You know, when it says that, even the one that says that it's Mishav Shoyev, it doesn't drip down, it goes back in. Because if it's Mishav Shoyev, guys, it should leave right away. So too by Beitzim. Chatchinu, you cut them, umalchinu, and you salt them. Afilu kedera sharian. Talina b'shpuda sharian. If you put them on a shpud, you don't have to cut them or salt them. Made the dayev, the blood's going to flow out. Achtinu agumre. If you put them on coals, pligi bar Rav Acha Ravina chad asa chad shari. Manda asa holds matzmis samich, that the coals will go ahead and shrivel it. Umanda shari mishav shari. So to the savarim of the neck, the arteries of the neck, chatche umalche, you can go ahead and cut them and salt them. This is next in Gemara. Afilu kedei shari talya b'shpuda beis hashchita l'tatoy. You put it on the shput, put the beis hashchita below, so the blood will flow out. Shari, because made of dayev. After agumri, if you place it on agumri, if you place it on coals, pligi bar Rav Acha Ravina charasa b'chad shari. Manda asa matzmis tamis umanda shari mishav shoyev. The hilchas of mishav shoyev. Hay umtze the asmik. This piece of meat that became red, it got a black and blue mark. Chalia, if you go ahead and put it in vinegar, if you put it, no, chalia is the moil that comes out of it when you cut it. The moil that comes out of it, that's one pshat. The second pshat is lishna achrina shecholton esay b'chaymitz lachatz liyasay, and the dum goes into the vinegar. Then it's asa. So the first pshat is that the moil that comes out of it, the stuff oozing out of it that still has blood in it, or the one that if you go ahead and use the vinegar, that would close it up and it will make it aser. Even if it's not red, chalya, the mold that comes out, or the vinegar would be aser. It's not possible that does not contain what slivers, pieces of blood. Amalei Marbar, that was his name. Marbar Amemer, the son of Amemer, Ravashi. Abba Megamale Gimuye. My father would swallow them. He would swallow them. It could be Ravashi Gufa Megamale Gimuye. Ravashi himself would swallow them. Amalei Marbar Mel Ravashi. Abba Hacholet the Cholet Beit Chodezimna. And High Cholet, the Cholet Beit Chodezimna. This vinegar that you used once, Sulay Tani Cholet Beit. You should go ahead and use it a second time. Because the first one, it seemed, guys, there was a thing called Chalita, where you can go ahead and use either boiling method or vinegar to seal it off in lieu of salting and or broiling. But we're not experts in that, so we don't do that. But again, if you did use vinegar as a means of salting, if you did use vinegar as a means of salting, then you should be very, very careful and not to use it a second time. Maishna mechola matma. So what's the difference? Maishna machla matma. The chalina by vinegar, it's weak. Cholish meikar dachlina. But you used it once already, so it's weak. Hasan isil lekiyur de peira be'ena. The time of the pre oimid bash leitziu mimenu klum. It's about no, the first time it keeps it in because of the strength of the pre. The second time it loses its power. You don't have the strength of the peri to go ahead and keep it in. Okay, we'll stop it over here.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone is listening. You're invited, cordially invited to Shabbos. I'm going to send out officially 8:30 at Chafetz Chaim. You're going to have